Hi YouTube, it is I, Danielle, better known as Danielle the Happy Medium, and welcome back to all them who are already subscribed to the channel. It's a pleasure to have you here. And if you're coming across this video for the first time and you like what you see, why not come on over, join my channel, and maybe subscribe and get all the information in regards to my understanding of mediumship and mediumship development. In today's question, and off the back of a few different things that have been spoken to about this week, we're going to talk about questions of mediumships, questions with guides, questions about on what side of the mind we should be asking questions. Really, the top and bottom of all this topic is questions. So if you've got 5 minutes, got your cup of tea, why don't we sit down, talk about this topic, and tell you what I think and see how it is that you can maybe implement some of the things that I'm talking about. So, questions. What is that? So, a student asked me this question yesterday. I had an email from a student last night. So, I thought it was only right that I come on and chat to you a little bit about that. So, you may understand this. Some mediums work on asking a lot of questions to the communicator, trying to get started in that communicational reading, or throughout that communication in order to get more evidence or more information. And it's something I've talked about on the channel before, but maybe it's quite far back on the channel. And because it's been brought back to my attention, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, I can only talk about my development and how I do mine and implement the skills that I use to help you. So I don't ask any questions when I'm doing readings or when I'm doing demonstrational work or anything like that. Now, jogging your memories back, if you haven't already watched that, look at the flow video I did a couple of days ago, maybe last week, I can't quite remember. The reason I don't ask questions for is because I've been able to understand that if I talk, the spirit world's going to automatically give me the evidence. I don't actually have to ask for it. Now, that means that basically I just keep talking and learn to use statements and using what I call building the sentence. Now, I've talked about this before and all on the channel. What tends to happen with newbie mediums, let me just have a drink of this tea, is that you're just sitting, waiting for something to happen. It doesn't matter. You're just sort of waiting, question. Who have I got? Who's coming? And it just becomes like this vicious cycle. So if you watch there's 3 questions all gone up. Who's coming? Is there somebody there? There's an awful lot of information going straight up there to the spirit world. So straight away, you have to understand now, if you understand the mechanics that I use, you'll understand that we have to be able to build what we call prongs or mechanics in order to get the information that you're trying to get through questioning. So you're making life complicated for yourselves, really, if I'm really honest with you. You're making it complicated for yourselves. Instead, what we should be doing, which is what I do, and I can't speak for others, I can only speak for how I do my work. It's been very successful, it's helped me out loads, so there must be something in it. So what I do is I learn to build sentences. So, for example, as I move my mind to the spirit world, I have a gentleman here, and as I'm working with this gentleman, he's given me the relationship of dad. Now, your job there is to basically remove most of that. The only key pieces of evidence that's actually being dropped in there is dad, and that's come from the spirit world. The rest of it I've built. And in order to, I haven't asked him who he is. I haven't said to time, who are you? What are all these types of things. What I've done is I've just let him drop that bit of information in for me. I have built a sentence in order so that he can give me who he is. Now, what I have done is structured that sentence, if you watch. I've structured it when I said relationship, dad. I was saying to the spirit world, without asking a question, I would like the relationship of who you are. I want to know who you are. But I haven't actually directly gone out there and asked them. I've actually just built the sentence, added the bits in that I'm trying to get, and I've gotten the answer to that. And so what happens is when lots of mediums go to the spirit world, they start asking all these questions, right? The problem with that is you knock the connection off. And also, if you're quite fearful, you can actually push the mind completely out the spirit world and feel like you're not getting anything. Now, I've done this for years and I've never asked questions once. The only time I ever asked questions is when I first starting out, and it wasn't even really questions then anyway, and also when I'm wrong. So, for example, I built the sentence and the information hasn't been dropped in, and I've got to move that around to fit it, to get it right, to fit it into the jigsaw, right? So that, and then give it back to the communicator, the sitter in front of me. They're the only two times I ask questions. And there's some exercises and techniques that I use within my classes. Obviously, this information is for free. That's for my paid clients. That helps you to understand more about this type of area. This then applicably applies to the guides. Now, a few people have said to me, well, how do you have that amazing relationship with a guide? First thing I want to say to you there, I've been building that relationship for 10 years. So for anybody who are married, in partnerships, whatever it may be there, relationships take time to build. It doesn't happen overnight, whether that be a friendship, a sister bit, like a sister relationship, whatever. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. You've got a few elements going on there, especially if you're the newbie or you're somebody who's just trying to get started. You've got a lot of fear going on. You're probably using a lot of questions, and you also don't probably quite trust yourself as well. Over the years, I've learned to trust the process. I trust my development. That has been established over years of time of working for the spirit world. You may be very lucky, and you may get that all, in the first couple of months, and great on you. I appreciate all of them things. But for those who maybe are not in that position, you have to accept and understand that it's going to take some time. Now, again, when we're questioning guides, one thing you need to be aware of, same as with the communications, this is why I train mediums to work with the spirit world first before we even get down the communicational line road. Because once we've built an establishment understanding of what we're doing over there, it's easy as peasy to push it over into the communication. What tends to happen is lots of people are doing communications but have no backdrop to what they're doing. So when they don't know what they're doing, this is okay, but eventually this is going to crumble because you can't build on top of that because there's no foundations for you to sit that on top of. All right. So when we're building relationships with the spirit world and we're trying to get information, again, there's got to be this development. There's got to be these mechanics built. And in order to have these mechanics built, we've got to take time to sit in the power, learn to find out how we connect, check the video out I did on Tuesday, learn to trust the process, etc., etc., etc. Again, when I'm asking a question, 90% of the time when I go into the spirit world, they already know what it is that I want to talk about. Or I'll get the nudge that I want to go in because they need to talk to me. 6 and 2 3s, it depends. When I get the answers from my team, it's not like I'm talking to you right now, like they're talking to me. It'll maybe be a picture with a feeling, with a word. It might be just a word and a knowing. And it's sort of filled in a bit like how I showed you with the sentence when you're doing communications. It's a bit like that with a guide. Only this time, they fill in the sentence and I have to fill in the blanks where they would do that for me with the evidence. So it's very important that I think, and I've talked about this is what you actually call presentation of work. Also, getting this kind of information also helps you to be able to give this work up professionally to a client, to a congregation, to anybody who's receiving a spirit communication from you. So this bit here is really helpful for a few different things. But when I talk about my guides, or I talk about how I have this relationship with my guides, it's not like I say I'm sitting talking like we're sitting having a chat like this. It's not. It's a little bitty, and I've got to sort of fill the blanks in. Sometimes with the best of intentions, and because of I don't always get that right. I miss the cue. I don't quite catch up what they're quite saying there. Because after all, I'm still a human and I have things going on and all the rest of it. And sometimes my interpretation of that can be a little off because I want to see it one way, but really they're presenting it in another way. This is where building this relationship takes time because you come to realize where you're going wrong and where they're trying to implement things that are not what you thought they were. So I wanted to sort of explain that a little bit to people so that you understand the need or the relationship that may come with guides and how that communication may come. Now, this is a mind-to-mind thing. All right, so when we're talking to guides or we're talking to communications, it's a mind-to-mind telepathic thing. It's not I don't know, I can't give you another example of that, but what I would probably want to say is it's not like a mouth-to-mouth thing, like a talk-to-talk thing. It's all done inside of the mind. You may get some of it across your own body, that's great. each person's going to be a little different here. But ultimately, what I probably am trying to get over is it is quite bitty. It's not like I'm talking to you here on this video. Questions will slow your connection down. Also, your mind will want to get involved, which is just what I've just been talking about there with the guides. So building these relationships very early on in the foundations, which I was talking about on Tuesday, is a big plus in my eyes. I also have talked on about this channel for a long time. I'm going to talk about something with this. Personal development. Do you know who you are and what you're bringing to the table? Do you know what is your flaws and what is your strengths? Because when you have a good understanding of who you are and what you're bringing to the table, you're going to find it a lot easier to differentiate between what's yours versus what's theirs. And that goes for communications and also for guides. But a lot of my students have been asking me about questions like, do you question people when you're doing mediumship? Answer in short, that is no. Do I question? One time I question, as I say, is when I'm either, it's between a couple of no's, I'm on my second no, and I'm thinking, right, hold up, Danielle, you've got this completely wrong. Or I have to sort that out in some way. That's the only time I ever ask any questions, really, if I'm honest with you. I just talk, sort of the sentences out and let them fill in the blanks, because if I'm really, really honest with everybody here on the channel, that's what you're supposed to be doing anyway, because you're not supposed to be driving the communication. The spirit world's meant to be driving the communication. And that's what we call storytelling. So it's where we as mediums are following the intelligence. That's the scientific word for it. The other word you may have heard, storytelling. That is where we are allowing the spirit world to talk about the things that they want to talk about. Now, a lot of my students go, well, what about the facts and what about this? Again, I do things within my classes to support students in these areas, because ultimately what we want is the storytelling with the facts in there mixed together, which brings for a beautiful communication of the spirit world doing as they please, but also bringing the human element of allowing the evidence or them, what I call chunky piece of evidence. So that might be a name, the passage, things that are specific, whatever it may be there. So it isn't your job to really be going in there asking questions anyway. It's your job to build sentences. Now, if you're not a very good talker, you're going to have to find another sort of scenario where you feel comfortable in them areas, because in order to get these kind of sentences out, you've got to be able to be a good talker, or at least be able to talk and be able to stretch that out and keep talking. Even if it feels embarrassing, just keep talking. One thing and a tip I will give you is here, if you find that you're one of them people who is a little shy or struggling to sort of speak and whatever, my advice to you, get a phone, put your voice recorder on, and sit and talk to yourself, or listen to your voice and get used to hearing your own voice and get used to talking. That would be one tip I could give you here on the channel. So in this particular video, we've talked about questioning. We've talked about why it's not really good to question communicators. Also, it's not good for the mind. What I do within my own development and have done for many, many years now, I've been working for the spirit, as I say, for coming up to over a decade. I'm coming up to 11 years in September. And it's not something that I've done, and something in the very early days, yeah, for a couple of bits and pieces. But as the years have gone on, I just don't do it. It's just not something that I understand. Do I understand people who do question? Yes, in some aspects, yes. But then I have it, and this is just my personal point of view. I'm not saying, anything here. All I will say is that there can be a lot of interference there from the human, and there can be less of the spirit world, which always makes me a little anxious, I've got to be honest, because as a medium, as an evidential medium, I want as much spirit and as less amount of me as humanly possible, because that for me makes it more evidential for the spirit world, and it allows the spirit world to talk about what they want to talk about. And for me, that's one of the biggest passions for me when I do mediumship and when I'm doing communications for people here to the earth world. So for me, questions is probably not something that I do, but I understand people who do them and the reasons as to why they may do them. So in this particular video, we've covered questions, not questions of guides, but also questions within your communications. Another little hint and tip I can give you before I shoot off, and I'll see you next Tuesday, is that if you're looking for bits of evidence in a said way, there is a really good way to do that. And there's a really good way if you look at your statements, and if you watched what I did right at the beginning of the video there, you may be able to understand. I don't want to give that one away. I like my students, or I like viewers to think about what I might be doing, and try to understand a little bit more yourselves, rather than me constantly giving you all the answers, because then that sort of take away the learning. And I think it's important that you here on the channel, learn your own style, but also take some aspects of mine, so that it helps you to build your own understanding and awareness. So have a look at the beginning of the video and what I did when I was on about the relationship, and look at how you could place that in your line of sentence to get a said piece of evidence, or to get a piece of evidence in a said way. Try that one out. We'll see how you get on with that one. Questions in mediumship, questions in guides, questions in your communications. What is your thoughts and feelings on this? Comments in the box. Give the video a like, share with friends. Thanks very much for you all coming along and joining me. As always, it's always a pleasure. Today's an easy day for me. It's a very busy day, and I've got to be honest, I was late getting up this morning. I was a bit tired this morning, I've got to be honest. So, yeah, anyway, but look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday. Have a beautiful weekend, and big kisses, big hugs from me and the spirit world. Bye for now.